Hello and welcome to this video and to November's book review, which I'm hoping is going to go alright because I'm having some real issues with this camera, hence the different angle, because I have to have it plugged in because none of the batteries seem to be working or charged. The memory cards are going weird, so I'm not having a great time with the camera, but there we go. But we're going to work with it and hopefully we can get this video filmed. So I had a pretty decent reading month in October, going back in time, November, and I read 5 books, all of which were gifts. So if you saw, I can't remember which video where I mentioned it, but typically I like to try and read all the gifts that I get from Christmas and my birthday before the end of that year. That's not going to happen this year, but I made a concerted effort in November to read as many of the gifts as I possibly could. And that's what I did. So I think we'll just jump in and start with the first book, which is Ace of Spades by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and people on the internet seem to say various different names. This is set in a fee-paying school in New York, I think it was. Pretty sure it's New York, but America. And we are following 2 black students, Zevin and what's her name? Chiamaka, again I don't know how to pronounce her name, apologies, who are in their senior year, their last year, and suddenly they're being targeted by Ace. Already the battery's been playing up. Anyway, so Ace is leaking all of their secrets, and then they are working together to try and find out who Ace is. The best way to describe this is like Gossip Girl meets Get Out, so that probably tells you a lot about this book. I, however, wasn't the biggest fan of it. I think I gave it 3 stars, 3.5 stars. It does have a good commentary on like racism and classism and that kind of stuff, and the characters themselves did seem pretty authentic in their actions and things like that, but for me it was just a bit meh. It wasn't particularly twisty, but then I might be in the minority in thinking that. I thought it did have some good sort of representation across the board, because obviously our main characters are people of colour. Zevin is also a gay man, so we've got that representation, and then there's just other stuff as well. And it was a quick read, despite the length, which again probably didn't need to be this long, but I kind of didn't want to pick it up and read it. It was very much oh, I better read my pages for today kind of thing, which is never a sign of a good book if you don't actually want to pick it up and read it. And I did think the ending was pretty poor, and I just didn't really care, which is a shame. When I asked for this for Christmas or my birthday, I'd heard some really good things, but since then I'd heard less good things, and I probably fall in that camp, which is a shame. I doubt I'll be picking up anything else from this author, but you never know with me. And yeah, it will be leaving my collection. So that is Ace of Spades by this person whose name I don't want to butcher again, and my battery is going to go again, isn't it? But we'll carry on and see where we get to. The next book I was really excited about reading, and that's Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby van Pelt. This is a book where a woman is cleaning in an aquarium and she strikes up a friendship with an octopus, and when I heard about this book I was led to believe that a lot of it was from the octopus's perspective. And yes, there is a bit from the octopus, who's called Marcellus, but I could have done with more octopus. So this book fell down and was disappointing because of my own hype, not that of the internet. I haven't really heard anybody on the internet read this book or talk about it, and that is because I wanted more from the octopus. I liked his parts, I wanted more of them. That being said, I did enjoy the story, and Tova as a character, who is the woman that is cleaning, I thought she was a good character to be in the perspective of, but we did get other people's as well, and that did get a bit confusing at points as to why we had to read other people's stories and how did that link it together, which it did eventually, but at the time of reading it, it was like, I don't care, go back to the octopus please. And the first chapter of this made me laugh, and I was like, yes, it's gonna match the hype that I've got it from, but then it just sort of went slightly downhill from there, which is a real shame. And that was largely when a character called Cameron was introduced. I'm not going to go much into it because I don't want to give anything away, but when Cameron was introduced, that's when the book took a turn that I didn't want it to really take. Well, not that I didn't want it to take, octopus, alright? So yeah, largely this book just didn't go in the way I wanted it to, or expected it to, but it is a cosy read. I did end up feeling pretty invested in the characters themselves. I did want them to be happy by the end of the book. It's just, I think my main issue, other than the fact that we don't get a lot from the octopus, is that as the reader we know a lot of the information before the characters, so we just have to go through the motion and read until they find out what we already know, which feels kind of tedious. I don't like that in a book. I've read a couple of that this year and I haven't enjoyed it at all. It just feels a bit superfluous. I'm just reading pages for the sake of it because the characters I'm reading about don't know the information that I already do, and you just want to like shake them and be like, look, this is the point, come on, let's get on with it. So it's a shame with this one. I did enjoy the book, I gave it 4 stars, but it just wasn't what I expected. I didn't like the fact that as a reader I knew more than the characters, and I wanted more from Marcellus. I was sold that this was going to be about a detective octopus. It says ever the detective Marcellus, so I was expecting more of a detective mystery novel with an octopus main, like an octopus main character, reading from his point of view. So maybe my fault for not looking more into this book, and I wouldn't not recommend it because, as I said, the story is good and I did enjoy it and the writing is nice and it does feel quite cozy. We're set in the, like, is it the Pacific Northwest? Yeah, he's a giant Pacific octopus. Again, we're in America. And all of that setting's very nice. But it's just not the book that I wanted it to be, and that's a real shame because I was really looking forward to getting to this one and was like, why haven't I read it yet? But there we go. That is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby van Pelt. So then the next book I read was non-fiction, and this is Undoctored by Adam Kay. This is the sequel follow-up to This Is Going to Hurt, which is about Adam Kay's time as a doctor and as a junior doctor, and then this is getting tedious now. I have no idea what I was talking about. So this follows Adam Kay after the events of This Is Going to Hurt and him leaving the NHS and his role as a doctor, and he's looking to become a writer, TV and that kind of stuff. I love This Is Going to Hurt. It's one of my favourite non-fictions. I found it really funny but also really like heart-wrenching and informative about conditions and that kind of stuff in the NHS. This one I didn't like nowhere near as much. I would go as far as saying it's a little bit of a money grab, potentially. It is good to see what happens between the events of This Is Going to Hurt and this one, like, and that book coming out and becoming a big bestseller and that kind of stuff, but also, did we really need to know? It did feel like essentially a lot of him getting into scrapes and illnesses and stuff and refusing to go and see a doctor, which there will be some sort of element of PTSD and that kind of stuff probably, but also you just kind of feel for his partner and that kind of stuff. Adam Kay in this does not come across as very likeable. He is very messy and he is very honest in it, which does mean that he doesn't come across as very likeable, which I guess is a brave thing to do, and there are some real hard-hitting topics in it, so definitely look at trigger warnings if you're thinking of going into this, because there are some rather graphic scenes of it, so definitely worth checking those out. And it did make me laugh, like the anecdotes and the footnotes and stuff, there were some that did make me laugh, so it wasn't that it had lost its Adam Kay style that This Is Going to Hurt has, it's just I didn't see the point in actually writing this book. I didn't see the point in giving us this information. I know there'll be some people that this does help because of some of the events that I mentioned, but for me, as just someone going in to be semi-entertained and had the same effect as the first one. It didn't have that at all, which again is a shame because it is a book that I was looking forward to because I enjoyed the first one so much. So yeah, again, another book that will be leaving my collection. I didn't have much luck in keeping books this month, but that is Undoctored by Adam Kay. However, a book that I definitely will be keeping is Carrie, Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the last in her like little series, which I didn't realise was a series, but obviously is a series that starts with Evelyn Hugo and ends with this one, where she goes through the decades for each thing. And this is following Carrie Soto, obviously, who was like #1 tennis player in the 80s. She made lots of records, and then someone comes along in the early 90s and is about to bypass her most Grand Slams won record, and she's not having it, so she comes out of retirement after 5 years to see if she can retain that title, essentially. I absolutely adored this book. I thought it was great. I gave it 5 stars, which technically is the first one I've actually given straight off, but I have upped my rating of Lessons in Chemistry to a 5-star because I can't stop thinking about that book. So I loved this book. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing is really good anyway, but I'm also a big tennis fan, so all of the descriptions of the matches and stuff just make me really tense and want to find out whether she won her Grand Slams and things like that. So that, I put the two together, her writing and the fact that I like tennis, was just like win-win-win for me. The only issue I actually have with this book is that, so my one criticism of this is that Carrie, although American, her dad is Argentinian, so they speak a lot of Spanish, and there's a lot of Spanish in this book, and I don't speak Spanish, so I don't think I missed anything, and I basically got the gist, but I didn't look any of it up, so, and there's no translation, so you just roll with it, and that's probably the one downside I had for this book. But that being said, I really like Carrie. I like how she grows and the relationships that she has both with her dad and with another tennis player, well, a few tennis players. I thought they were really well done and well written and believable, and I thought she really does go on a bit of a journey with her thought processes and things like that. There's also some really interesting like pundit interludes where they're talking about Carrie's return essentially, and the real differences are shown between the standards that men and women are held to and that kind of stuff, so that was also really interesting. And it was just a good look at like perfection, burnout, living with the expectation of either yourself, your parents, etc, etc. So highly recommend this one, but generally the whole of that quartet, Malibu Rising is at the bottom. Daisy Jones probably beats this one for me. So for my order it probably goes Daisy Jones, Carrie, Evelyn Hugo, and then Malibu Rising, which I think is controversial, but there we go. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and surprisingly, if you've been on my channel for a while, Pete started reading it now. Woohoo! So that's Carrie, Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And hopefully I can get this last book in before my battery dies again. The last book I read and finished yesterday was Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and this is another book that didn't do what I thought it was going to do, and thus wasn't what I wanted. So I don't know why from the back I got slight Fault in Our Stars esque vibes from it, but this book really isn't Fault in Our Stars. In this we are following Sam and Sadie. Oh, it's raining. Sam and Sadie, who meet in a hospital playing games. In the games room, that's how they connect, that's how their friendship forms. And then later on in life, in their early 20s, they come together to build or make a computer game, and thus then a computer game company. And we're basically following them through till they're like late 30s. So yeah, not Fault in Our Stars at all. Probably my own fault that I thought it was going to be like that, so maybe I should read things better. This is a 470-page book, and it does not need to be a 470-page book. There are big chunks of this that don't need to be in it. The section called Pioneers, I'm looking at you. Like Ace of Spades, this is one that I read, I didn't hate the writing style. Some of it was quite nice, in fact, and it drew me in enough, but it also did not need to be this long. And it was one that I read what I needed to read and then put it down and didn't really want to pick it up again, which I don't like it when that happens, but I still read them all anyway. Oh, don't say the baby's awake. So the topic of like game development was kind of interesting. My husband is in that area-ish, but not really game development, so some of that was quite interesting. And Sam and Sadie had some interesting parts of their lives. Again, there were probably some trigger warnings in this for people, so look those up before going into it. But I also didn't really care. They had this conflict that seemed to run through the whole of this book that I just thought was pretty petty and childish, and that they should just get over it. And some of the events that they go through, although this is supposed to be, you know, real life and a bit run-of-the-mill, sort of normal people vibes, normal people doing normal people things, despite the fact that they run a computer games business, it seemed all a bit excessive. So I'm not going to talk very long about this book because I'm getting very fed up with this camera and this battery, but this has got a lot of hype on the internet and the writing is good. Again, before I want to throw this camera somewhere, the writing's good, some of the topics are interesting, but I thought it dragged. That's my opinion on this book. So that's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and I'm just going to go because I'm getting annoyed now. So if you like this video and this chaotic, slightly angry nature it's turned into, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in what I read in December, there is some festive stuff going on. Please click that subscribe button and I will try not to have this energy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!